everyone, it's Lynn. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about something that's very close to my heart, and that is priestesshood. So first, right off the rip, I want to say that I have been thinking about priestess, the moniker, for a while now, and if you want a little bit more onto my monikers or epithets, go watch this video because I talk all about the qualities, monikers, and epithets that I need to see in my own practice and that aid me in my practice. And priestess was one of them. Of all of the monikers, qualities, things like that I need to see in my own practice, priestess is one that's very close to my heart. And so I've been taking some notes as to what the path of the priestess would look like, especially kind of like in modern times, you know? So in the context of this video, I'll be going over a little of my thoughts on what the priestess path would look like, and then kind of do what like Tarot Shrink does, where I give some books and decks at the end to reference that I feel has aided me in the priestess way. So books and decks will be coming at the end of this. I'll probably put some timestamps in the description box for you, okay? For me, priestess is a title while also being a verb. Much like the word witch, I believe that it can be a title that's given to you, a title that you give yourself, and a verb. It's something that you do. So, and I try to get down to the essence of what priestesshood would look like, and how that went about for me was going through what I thought that their duties would have been back in ancient times, and then kind of dwindling that down to how can we modernize that. And so using my own kind of gnosis for this, if you will. I've always been fascinated with priestesses and all the qualities that they seem to possess. It always seemed like priestesses always seemed like I guess like a very good liminal, they were very good liminal beings insofar as they weren't passive in the temples and in the temples and the places of worship, which in ancient times were two separate places. I don't believe that they were passive in what they did, and I don't believe that they were particularly like full-on active. Okay, there was a lot of like down, solitude, reverent times. Also, there were active times. So it was very much they were both the priestesses of old. And so it's not so much going and going and doing and doing and doing. There was a lot of solitude and a lot of isolation, a lot of prayer work and introspection. So I kind of feel like they're the liminal beings of temples or temple work. Before I get into what I consider the duties of a priestess would be, I want to say that most priestesses are initiated. Okay. Now, if you are like me and you're a solitary practitioner, this probably would come in the form of self-initiation. But you could be in if you practice witchcraft, you could be in a coven, and then you could be initiated in that way, in that regard, like in a witchcraft practice or a magical practice. That could be your initiation, or you could still go through a self-initiation path. But in most respects of priestesshood, there is a form of initiation. And for me, as a solitary practitioner, I try to think of what that would look like. Some initiations could be rite-based, which just means that they would happen in those critical stages of life: birth, a death, a marriage, whatever, right? Puberty, okay. Rites of passages, if you will. Either way you do it, I think that it would start somewhere. You would either already have a predestined starting place to start your priestess path, or you would pick a time out of the hat and commit. But then, and then decide that this is what you want to do. But before you do the last stage in the initiation, which is a contract, there are some things that you would have to do. You'd have to educate yourself as to what you're priestessing for, right? Like, who am I the priestess of? What am I the priestess of? And how far out does it go into the macrocosm? And then after you educate yourself, you must engage with those things. So I feel like forming relationships with those things, whether it be spirits or community, the energies of the world or the cosmos at large, engaging with those, forming relationships with those is crucial in the initiation portion as well. And then you have, of course, duty layout. And this could just mean, what am I responsible for as a priestess of ... And when you lay out the duties, then it kind of gives you a set structure as to what your responsibilities will entail. It's just like making a honey to-do list, you know? You're just making a to-do list for yourself, for the craft, for the priestess craft. Within all of this, I think it's crucial to know your place, you know, kind of to stay in your lane kind of a thing, and knowing when to jump off of it, you know, get off the lane and actually do something. So it's, again, this is very liminal. It's very passive, but then also there's some action that needs to be taken. One portion of the initiation that is in a lot of initiation practices beyond priesthood is the concept of mind, body, spirit kind of mentality. So along with the other duties and things like that in priesthood, you have to, like, in a specific order of taking care of body, then taking care of emotion, then taking care of mind. So it's in that order in a lot of initiatory practices around the world. So you have body, you have to take care of your body, then you have to take care of your emotions, regulate them, and then you have to take care of the mind. So it's like, you know, critical thinking, things like that. So I think that's a good practice as well, is to like have this kind of equilibrium going within the priestess path as well. And then of course the last stage in an initiatory practice in a priestess initiation would be the contract or a pact or some sort of commitment. Like however you want to do this, probably could be done in a ritualized commitment. Okay, now I want to go over the duties that I wrote down that I believe are included in my priestess path, I'll say. Not everyone's. I think that you should come up with your own duty structure, but I have some duties that I believe are relevant to my practice. The first is a keeper. Most priestesses were keepers of the temples, of the sacred space. This could just mean that you're the caretaker. You're the caretaker of your sacred space. This could be an altar space. This could be your whole home. There just are, like, again, mind, emotions, and body. You're caretaking. That's what it is. And that this could be self-love. The next is teacher. A lot of priestesses had a role of teacher. They would teach about the gods. They would teach about certain things that were happening in the community. They might have even gone into politics or agriculture work, like helping the community with certain agricultural help. There was an aspect of teacher in priestesshood too. Then healer, of course. Some priestesses were healers. So we could even say, again, we're healing mind, body, spirit, mind, body, emotions, right? We're healing something. I would also say that you're not only healing yourself, there's an aspect of priestesshood that's healing the collective as well. In my opinion, it's healing yourself and the collective. For me, divination was another duty, I guess, of the priestess in me, because I practice the divinatory arts variously. So that had to be that had to be part of my duty list, I guess you could say, to not only pull the cards for self, but to get in touch with symbolism, because I think that is incredibly important in my entire craft, not just my priestesshood. But I think that because some of the priestesses would have been like omen readers or portent, reading the portents, prophecies, right? They would have had some sort of relationship with those, with divination. And I think all of it could boil down to, especially in modern times, it could be boiled down to symbolism. Autonomy. if you think about it, the old maxim, know thyself, is outside of a temple. There's that. There's an aspect of priestesshood that is on self and autonomy, self-love, and know thyself. I put glamour on my list because I can use glamour in my priestess path, but a lot of priestesses back in the day, even now if you look at monks and nuns, they have a very simple wardrobe, a very ecstatic like a simple way of living, like a back to basics sort of living, off the grid type thing. And if we thought about that aspect of limitation could be a form of glamour magic too. Like if I get all dressed up and in my very beautiful garb, beautiful jewelry, things like that, that might be what we all think about when we think about glamour, is the very pretty stuff. But if we look at monks and nuns and we look at the priestesses of old, they were wearing very simple clothing. They might have been restricted from having any sort of because anything pretty or an adornment, anything made out of precious metals probably would have been for the gods. So living that simple, restricted life could be construed as a form of glamour. Now, I can go as elaborate as I want with glamour. I like thinking about the two opposite ends of glamour. The next duty I would probably put down is prayer and or worship. But this could just be a form of reverence for either the self, the collective, your community, your family, whoever, okay? A reverent practice, but also a Thanksgiving practice. The aspect of Thanksgiving in the form of prayer and worship. But then that kind of ties me into the next duty, which is ritual. I think that that's a huge part of priestesshood. Now, what ritual looks like in terms of a priestess for me, ritual in priestesshood would look like, there were so many rituals from the priestesses that we know in history. For me, that would look like offering. For me, in this modern time, that would be like offerings or sacrifice or cycle honoring. Cycles like certain Sabbats, Estes, honoring the cycles of the seasons, honoring the cycles of life. Or ecstatic rituals, right? I think a lot of priestesses would have been involved in ecstatic rituals. This is drumming, chanting, dancing, singing. Rituals would have been important to raise energy collectively or within the temple. Could have been energy shifting for love, for reverence, for worship. Not that they would have done that in the temples, because I don't think that they worshipped in the temples. I think that those were just where the sacrifices and offerings were held. But anyways, correct me if I'm wrong. But they would have done some ecstatic rituals, So I think all of those are important in my own craft and on my priestess path, on the priestess path. The last duty is one of every priestess, and that is of service. Service to yourself, service to the community, service to the world at large, and service to universal laws already present in the cosmos. How are you going to be of service? I think how are you going to be of service? I think that that's the most important question a priestess can ask. So those are some duties that I wrote down for priestess. Okay, now I do want to go over some books that have helped me generate this and that are continually helping me generate and stay on a priestess path. Okay, the first book is The Holy Wild by Daniel Dulski. This was a very good book for what it is, okay? It really helped me to tap into my wild place, my untamed place, and a pagan place, and also a priestess place. So it was a very pivotal book for me. The next one is another pivotal book that a lot of people talk about, and that is Women Who Run with the Wolves. Okay? Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype. A lot of these are considered wild archetype books, because I believe that my wild spirit, there's an aspect of my wild spirit that is the priestess, and that needs her in my priesthood. So yeah, so definitely women who run the world with wolves. Sappho, okay, the poetry of Sappho was instrumental for me in terms of plugging into a feminine place, but also an ancient place, a priestess place, a before their time kind of a place. Really good, still really good, still love it, still love her. And then one that I'm currently reading, and it's called Too Much, How Victorian Constraint Still Binds Women Today. It's been really good. There's a lot of good chapters in this so far. I haven't finished it, but it's been a really good read. So definitely a book that I would recommend. Because like there's some of the chapter names are just so good. Like The Nerve of You. You're the Chatterbox. Let's see, what was this one called? Close. Plus. Okay, the aspect of plus. Crazy. Cut off. Horny. Cheat. Loud. And loud and old. Those are some of the chapters. Very, very good. Very, very, very good. I love it. It's actually been a really great read for me. So, another Clarissa Pinkola Estes book is Untie the Strong Woman. This was really good because it taps me into a love place, where love comes from place. It says, Blessed Mother's Immaculate Love for the Wild Soul. So, again, this was the same author as Women Who Run with the Wolves. This was another great read. This doesn't get talked about a lot, but it was really good. So, just as good, if not as good as Women Who Run with Wolves. The stories, it's laid out much the same in my opinion, except the stories in this are tied directly to Mother Mary. Look at that. She carries the torch. She carries, oops, what is this? She carries the ember through every dark. Love that. So yeah, like I said, it's, and not so much about mythos in terms of like worldly mythos. This is Mother Mary mythos. Still good. Okay. The next one is probably the most apropos book on this list. And that is The Priestess Path by Stacey DeMarco. Stacey DeMarco is a deck creator. She does a lot of cool things. Okay. You can go check her out. But this was a really good book. I got it when it when it first came out. I think it came out last year. 2023. So it came out this year. So I got it right away. I've been loving it. And it really goes on the priestess path and the stages of the priestess path. And she goes into mythos for each path, like a different mythos for each path. So it's kind of like this priestess path generated from mythos and symbolism and beauty and love. And it's really laid out in a very good way. And it's not a long read, so it's very accessible. And I love it so much. So, and then the next one is one that's been in my collection for a long time. Okay, a long, long time. And this is called EarthWalking Sky Dancers. It says, okay, let me read the back. In this collection, Leila Castle has gathered together women writing about spiritual initiation, identity, and transformation. Their pilgrimages are inspired by places sacred to many traditions worldwide, among them Old European Goddess, Geomancy, Tibetan Buddhism, Native American, Peruvian Shamanism, and Mayan. Their stories explore interdependence and autonomy, connection to the earth, and developing a new spiritual voice. All in all, I enjoyed the stories and the prose aspect of a lot of the stories were really good. So, you know, it made the list. And then the last book is one that is probably the weirdest book on the list for a priestess path, and that is I've mutilated my copy, okay, in an act of sacred creativity. The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. I've destroyed my copy. I love it so much. I've destroyed it in loving it, but it's so good. It's changed my life. I love it. So many of his reflections are spot the hell on. Super, super good. All right, now there were the books. Let's talk about decks. Okay, the first one is definitely my Wild Nature, Wild You. This has been just a beautiful deck in my practice, okay? So good. It's just so good. I use it all the time. This is actually the second edition. Look at that ancient card. So good. So good. Like, it's just like a nature connection that helps tap me into the wildness of me, but also the priestess path. Very, very good. So that's the first deck. The next one has been a little surprising, okay? The Carnival at the End of the World Tarot. This is my Wild Jester Priestess deck. Still in order because I can't bring myself to shuffle it just yet, but super good, super good. I love it so much. Like, I don't know really how to do this, but I'm sure y'all have seen it somewhere, but it's been it's surprisingly been I knew it would, okay? It's been on my wish list forever, and when I finally got it, I vowed that I pretty much knew my collection would be complete. I made a video about that. So, Carnival at the End of the World Tarot has been really good for my priestess practice, surprisingly. The next three are all Ellen Lorenzi Prince decks. All of her decks have been pivotal for my practice, okay? So, Tarot of the Crone, definitely, I mean, hug deck, soul deck, whatever you want to call it. It's my favorite deck. It's been pivotal in my practice, for real. So, let's get these right. Okay. Pivotal in my practice. But it's not the only one of her decks that's really good for the priestess work. The Minoan is another favorite of mine. I love it so much. There are actually a lot of priestess offering type, sacrifice type imagery in this deck, as the Minoans, an ancient culture. So, really good. Like this sisterhood card. As the sun card, this is the priestess card. Death is the ancestor. The way she changed some of the majors and the minors is just so good for the priestess path. The singer is the Hierophant. So good. I love it so much. And then, like, here's Earth Priestess. There's so much transcendence. There's so much transformation, ritual, offering, sacrifice, energy in this deck, for real. There's just something sacred about this deck.
Love that card. A lot of animals. Very shiny. So anyways, the Minoan is a great deck for the Priestess path. And then the last Ellen Lorenzi Prince deck that I think is pivotal is her Dark Goddess. I have the mass market, but it's a really good deck of hers. All goddess work, you know? Really good. It taps you into the Dark Goddess and the archetype therein, but then also working with the goddess itself helps to understand how to form a relationship in a priestess way with the goddess. Like, there's a relationship there of, you know, veneration and mutual respect. And I think that working with the Dark Goddess Tarot helps in form a actual veneration practice. And then here is the mother piece, which this is a priestess deck. This deck has been with me through a lot. It was there for me in a time that I needed it. Through a lot of my fears, a lot of my body work, self-love work. It's been there. So I had to mention it in this priestess video. Just so good for what it is and what it was. So that's a little on the mother piece. It has been a great deck for me in my practice. And then the last one is my newest deck. I've got quite a few now on my Make Playing Cards page, but I have a brand new one out now. I don't even think I've shown it on the channel yet, but I've been working with it like hell. It's called the Emblem Oracle. Okay, this is the jumbo size. I do have it. The jumbo size is the same size as my Wild Nature Wild You, the 3.5 by 5. But I do have a mini and a 10 on there, so there's 2 listings. This is my symbolism deck. There are so many decks out there that have symbols on them. They're great and they're mass market, okay? But some of them were like cross-cultural, different pantheons, not enough symbols, or the ones that were present weren't ones that I would have connected with or used. So I couldn't get those decks. So I decided to make one of my own. This is a 63 card deck full of the symbols that I use the most often. And they're all in like the Roy G. Biv. So it'd be great to work with other colors. Gotta figure out how to show this off. So super great. It's been a great deck so far. It's been a great deck so far. Look at that. I love that blood card. Full of symbols. There's a crossroads, chain, nourishment, flower of life, health, moon, globe, right? Shield. Just so many. And it's just been a great oracle deck to clarify with tarot. So it's been a very lovely deck. Pretty sure I'll have a walkthrough coming up on the channel soon. I guess let me know if you want to see a walkthrough, but they're already up on Make Playing Cards right now, so go check it out if you're interested. But it's been a really good deck. Symbolism is so important to my craft. When exploring the priestess part of my craft, the symbolism is relevant. So this has been a very good deck for that. Look at that knot card. So like I said, 63 cards. Very good. I'm excited to see if anyone else is interested in this, but I just love looking at it. It matches me today. There was my thoughts on the Priestess path. some books, and some decks. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts below. If you have anything to add, subtract, correct me on, hit me up. All right. Hope everyone's having a fabulous day. Much love.